Hi. How's my volume? Should I turn up a little or is it fine this way? Yeah, everybody says that. I'm gonna do some water fill up here. I don't know what the problem is, but sometimes I can't see how many people are on the stream, actually. Yeah, I assumed that. That's too bad. I wanted to monitor when a few more people were on for announcing the contest. I'm just gonna go ahead and do some of the other stuff now. Now the Twitch stream is sort of loading. Yeah, okay. Always a bit anxious about the connection. So, this is for the next article of my Guide to Aqualon series I'm creating. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, I am Greenhorn. Actually, you can see it on my t-shirt now. And I'm the creator of the world Aqualon and the novel Aqualon Rise of the Broken. And yeah, I'm here to talk a little bit about world building, about the setting itself, and on how to work with World Anvil, both for writing articles for your setting, for working with the CSS, so creating themes for your pages. I will try to start creating a foresty theme that I will propose to Dimitris as a standard theme, so you can use it too. And I'll also work a little bit on my material for Fate Core, which is a role-playing system, which I want to integrate with my setting for playing. The music playing in the background is some stuff I composed for a, let's say, section of my setting. So, I'm actually doing a little work with music. Maybe you'd like to take a look into this. Let me just pause the music player a second. So what I do, I create background music using Fruity Loops Studio, which is a desktop media workstation. This is the song I'm currently trying to finalize for publishing. It's called Electricity. I've been sitting on this for some 5 years or something. It's one of my most favorite songs I've ever written. But I never really got the accompanying, let's say, media I wanted to publish it. I initially really wanted to bring it out with a music video, but I wasn't, let's say, good enough at drawing those to do justice to the song. So I was trying to get a collaborator or a production company to do it, but it sort of went nowhere. So there I went, sitting on it. Well, now that I have World Anvil, I feel that publishing it as part of an article is also a good way to convey the story and emotion behind it. So this looks super complex, I suppose, but it's not that complex. Okay, maybe a little bit. So let's see, we have a lot of different tracks with so-called patterns on them, which are here in my pattern editor. I can sift through these patterns. Each has one or more instruments with MIDI roll notation, which then plays. I feel like this is going to be super loud if I play now, so let's just turn this way down, just way down. Can you hear that when I play that? Just like flipping a little through the channels we have here. And when you put them together on the songboard, you get your song. And all these colorful bands you can see here with the curves, those are automation clips. So what these do is I can choose any knob anywhere here in my instrument settings or in my mixer, where I apply, well, the mixing and equalizing and stuff and effects. I can choose all of these knobs for automation. It will create this track, and then I can sort of adjust the levels on the fly as the song progresses. I use this to modulate the volume, to have certain effects appear at certain times, but not all the time. And way down here, where the tracks get less complex, these are my audio tracks. These are all Vocaloid voice tracks. So Vocaloid is like a software for singing synthesis. You type in your notes, your melody, and then for each note you also write the text that's supposed to be sung. And then you manipulate the vocal dynamics to make it sound as real, or if you're into that, unreal as possible. Actually, there's some unreal sounding in here because this is of course a song about androids. So if I play this, it does a little like this. So something to that effect. I actually finished my work on this. Sorry, that's my message tone. Okay. Actually, I'm just gonna mute myself. So, where was I? Yes. I actually finished working on this earlier, and I'm now exporting this. Well, not exporting, I'm creating a video for this using Adobe After Effects. And actually I should pause this because it is a huge drain on my computer's resources. I hope everything was like super clicky and difficult to understand up until now, because that just like takes all of my processing power. Anyways, so what kind of article series is this actually for? Let's get into that a little bit. So let's drag this browser a bit here over. I want to keep the comments. Oh, that's good. Excellent. Thank you. So this is actually the homepage for my project. Writing these little tweet boxes here was a bitch and a half, and I'm not quite satisfied with the way they work, you know, coding wise. It's a bit dirty. But fun fact, if you use the Twitter widget for your website, no horizontal arrangements possible as far as I know. It's very frustrating. Anyways, here you can see the release schedule for my novel. Actually, I just uploaded chapter 9, so if you were to go to the VBook or the mobile gallery, which I suppose is a bit more simplistic if you like it that way, but the images just brutally load up, which can be a bit slow if your internet connection isn't great. Anyways, if we go to page 166, I believe, there it is, chapter 9, Ripples in History, where Atlas has a very weird-ass encounter. Really just weird. You can do the same here in the VBook, just it should be somewhere around 1 166 also. Yes, there it is. 166 Ripples in History. I will attach the links to these sections of the public books where I always put them. Firstly, here in the release date column, and way down on the website there's actually this handy table of contents which links to the specific parts of the novel. So when I click here on the little mobile icon, it will load the mobile gallery for chapter 8, Trapped in a Sea of Yarenma, which is an expression in my world for well, going from the what was it, fire into the frying pan. Yeah, pretty much. So again, I would really love it if you guys were to join me on the Discord server. I publish daily facts about my world there, if I can. Actually, why don't I just show you now that you can view my screen. So there's a hangout and everything in the writer's lounge. I'm always happy to look at your writing and give critique if I can find the time. There's announcements of new articles I've published and stuff I'm working on. And the Aqualon Fact of the Day channel, where I will, in this format, keep publishing little tidbits of information about my setting, which actually is beneficial to have access to for the contest I am going to announce. So, enough of this. Let's go to World Anvil. Can you guys still get me? Because I have the Twitch thing open here and it's like frozen on Fruity Loop Studio. Let me just reload this page, make sure that everything's alright. So maybe it's just slow to load, because I mean, I can show you. This is what I'm currently getting on Twitch, so I'm a little bit anxious. Yeah, thanks. Well, that's all the confirmation I need. Let's keep going. So we're on my world page. As you can see, there's quite a bit of CSS styling going on here, and I really want to get into how to make that happen for your own world, the way I'm going to create a foresty green template for hopefully the default templates on World Anvil. Should also serve as a tutorial for guild members who want to create their own templates, and for non-guild members it's meant to be a resource for them to use, I hope. Anyways, I try to also keep the publication status of the novel on the world page itself, so people can focus on following me here, because I do a lot of my publishing on here. Anyways, so the series of articles I'm currently working on is this one. It starts with the article Paxia, and I'm going to put a very large and prominent link at the top of my world page once I'm done with the series. It's about a character from the setting explaining the setting to the reader that doesn't want to just dive in and read any old article or read the novel, which of course is already several hundred pages of published material, so beyond that, I suppose. Anyways, I try to keep these articles light and short and in a sort of narrative way where Paxia speaks to the reader about her experiences. And admittedly, I have gotten way off track. Yeah, that's so weird because it's working again for me now. Maybe it would help to reload? I don't know. It's probably a Twitch thing. Well, sorry about that. Anyways, where was I? Yes. So I have actually gotten way off track. All 3 articles I've published so far basically give very little information about the layout of the world of Aqualon itself, because Paxia actually originates from the previous incarnation of the world, where sort of towards the end of that world mankind didn't exist anymore, and a world of and a race of synthetic beings, of sort of androids were the inhabitants of Aqualon. And she basically was the first sentient machine to ever emerge, actually constructed by the humans of her time, and she survived throughout the entirety of android history. By the way, these androids did not kill the humans, they died off for other reasons. Actually, it was sort of the fault of the Great Clockwork. So there's so sorry, I've got a bit of the sniffles. Anyways, there's actually one article, which is this one, about the Great Clockwork, that gives you some information about the setting, or the, I'm going to say, relevant part of the setting, the contemporary part of the setting, which is the one about the Great Clockwork. The Great Clockwork is sort of a, let's say, machine of souls that exists in, well, perpendicular to reality. If you're anywhere in reality, it is sort of adjacent. Doesn't mean it's infinite in size or anything, just it's spaceless. I'm not sure if it's actually timeless, but if it is, I'm gonna say 4-dimensional, it could move in any direction in time it wanted. So that is a possibility. For what I have actually decided on for the way the clockwork works is that it's a quantum wave function collapser. So it's sort of, I'm sure you've already heard of this whole many worlds theory, the Everett many worlds theory, which is just a central theme in a lot of fantasy and science fiction, where basically any decision you can make creates a parallel universe. Well, it's not so much about decisions, but about quantum states. So whenever a quantum state collapses, there's like virtual particles that could have been created in between. There are certain other positions or momentums the particle could have had, and the idea is that it just has all of its possible positions and momentums as it travels, and the other versions of that diverge into other worlds. Anyways, my setting sort of uses the opposite of that approach. The Great Clockwork collapses quantum wave functions. It basically destroys these parallel worlds as a source of energy. So there's just one reality, sort of. Anyways, Paxia talks a little bit about the clockwork, and she is, well, a little bit displeased with it, I would say. I think the tone does bring that across. I feel like she is... I'm not sure she thinks it's like an oppressive entity, just that it has made certain mistakes. It was sort of at fault for the destruction of mankind on our world. So she liked those guys. They were pals. Anyways, the last one of the articles that I have created so far, but there is more to come. It's the Black Archive, which is a 5 by 5 by 5 meter box of black indestructible metal with the words "Remember Us" inscribed on the front. And it opens to people that are like culturally and scientifically advanced enough to not have their entire view of the world flipped on its head by the contents, which are relics and like mementos and memorials of past human races that have lived on previous incarnations of the world of Aqualon. So much for the introductory articles that I'm writing. I am really looking forward to the judging of the species articles. Maybe that's gonna happen today on the World Anvil stream, maybe not. I hear some people wrote freakishly long articles that probably make the judging very time consuming. Well, shame on those people. They are evil people. Probably very handsome, but evil people. Alright, so where are we going to next? I kind of wanted to do some work on my world map. I've actually progressed quite a bit on that. So what I'm doing, or what I have started doing, is I created this freakishly huge world map with this classical world atlas layout. As with all maps, this is actually not the North but the South Pole, because technocrats live in the South and they make the maps, and by gosh golly, they are on top of the world, literally. Anyways, I have created the basic geography of the world, where the Great Land is, which, as you can see, is basically half of the globe. The Iron Belt in the middle, which is just a 150 kilometer broad band of actual iron, some rust too at the edges. And then there's the Ocean Belt, which contains many chains of islands, quite huge ones also. This part here is called the Corsic Ocean. I mentioned it several times. It contains the largest islands, and these are called the 17 Yonder Islands, even though it's more than 17 islands, but only a few of those actually count towards that. Oh boy, I am really looking forward to that now. And luckily I don't have to wait long. Anyways, this is the Spiral Sea on top of the Ocean Belt and accessible from the Corsic Oceans, and it's sort of a literal spiral of water going around and around the globe until it reaches the South Pole. And in between there are these, well, what do you call it? They are metal walls, somewhat like the Iron Belt, but much thinner, and they hold the water in as it goes around and around in a spiral. In between it just goes way down. It's just like a black abyss. It likely goes down to the planet's core, but you'd have to ask the Borealis technocrats, who actually live up here at the South Pole. I've taken the liberty of writing little descriptions for the major parts of the world and regions. I haven't gotten all of them yet. For example, I have not written a lot about this part. I mean, here's the here are the western walls of Weltenant, where the western sanctum of the Null is, and somewhere here is the technocrat city of Altona, and somewhere here I think the Brahman Woods, where Paxia lives. But this general area is not very inhabited, because there are very strange and dangerous magical effects emanating from this general region of the Iron Belt. I discuss it around chapter, I think, 17 or 18 of the book, where some of the characters are subject to these changes. And well, the goal of this huge world map is to fill it in bit by bit, because I've already created several more detailed maps that I've published on World Anvil as separate maps, and I thought it would be cool to put them together and have one giant interconnected map so people can really gauge the shape of the world and the relation of things to each other. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. Anyways, yes, I actually put together the Yamato mountain range and the Middle Lands, but to connect them organically, I drew a lot of new stuff in. I made connecting roads and drew in more of this huge forest at the northernmost part of the Great Land called the Odenwald, which I'm pretty sure is an actual forest name in the real world. Wald is just German for forest, and Odin, well, in my case, and I think in the real world's case also, is just borrowed from the word Odin, because the old gods in my world have the actual names of the Norse gods, and Odin is the all-father of these gods, though the gods in my world are not quite as godly as one may think. They were regular human beings from before the reshaping of the world, when all of this was split into 9 shard worlds, like little islands floating in space. They were connected by the Bifrost. And some of the humans, they drank of the Well of Word, which was like an intersecting point between the real world and the great clockwork, and they gained great power and immortality from it, and were then worshipped as gods, the old Norse gods. So I put in the Odenwald, I put in some extra roads, and then I thought, well, with those roads and foresty bits, there should also go some settlements. I continued the Lauterbach River and thought it has to come from somewhere, so I just had some hill land here. And added another river here coming from the Yamato mountain range, because I thought, well, if there are so many huge mountains, all that melting water has to go somewhere, and spring water, I assume. So I created a little lake here called Loch Gungar, and then I thought, let's put a little village here, call it Gungarstein, and Gungar based on the spear of Odin, Gungir, which in my setting actually was created by the enemies of the gods, the Greenhorn family, who forged Techna magical weapons, like a Greenhornish mega lance, which was sort of this magical lance. They would fly into battle on giant warmoths, the Sensoga, and drop down from the sky and fall onto the lance. They would really cling to the lance. They would fall down, and they'd like jump in a way that they would bore the lance in front of them into the ground, like just stabbing the ground, and all the kinetic energy would go into the lance. They would not die from it, because all the kinetic energy just gets absorbed into the quasi magical engine of the lance, and then it sort of clicks and releases, and a flat wave of kinetic energy is released from the lance, and it just cuts everything in half at a certain height, depending on how deep they burrow into the ground. And that's how Odin lost his eye during the Great War. But he also collected one of those lances and made it his own, and because the gods are like crazy strong, like muscle-wise, sort of, it's not really muscle, he can sort of use the lance just for stabbing and activating it a little bit. It's very effective. He doesn't have to drop out of the sky to use it. So I added just a few more villages. I also added a few more angel gates, or also called angel stones, which is where the souls of Northmen are drawn if they wear a lodestone, a necklace, when they die. And if they do, their souls sort of travel to these stones, they are resonators, and then they go to the realm of Asgard, and the goddess Freyja guides these souls to a great gate, which leads to the realm of Helgard. And there they can sort of like feast if they get to the good part, or just don't if they don't. And at some point they are free to leave there also and rejoin the Great Clockwork. It's sort of like a way station between this life and the Great Clockwork, which of course just takes souls in and returns them to human bodies as needed. Reincarnation and stuff. I also added a lot of grass onto the map since the last time I worked on it, so it doesn't look so empty. So I think this already offers quite a bit to the imagination, and this I think is already a good start for some interesting role-playing. So if anyone wants to use this map to structure their campaign around, go right ahead. I'm also available for questions. And yeah, now the question is, do I draw in some more stuff into this map, or do I start making the template? What's the time? So it's 6:35, so I have quite a bit of time. Can I get like a gauge of the room? What do you guys think? Would you like to see some map making first, or would you like to see some World Anvil Theme building first? What are your thoughts on that? I'll just scroll through this map a little bit more as I wait for the video to reach you, because there's quite a bit of delay. Yes, so the Middlelands. There's a bunch of large roads sort of connecting the 5 cities. We have the Longing Route, which connects to the waterways of Aquarius and goes all the way down to Arda, and it forks off into the North Way, which goes to Arealis, and the Est Road, which goes to the Tower of 5. Est Road as a name being just inspired by East, because the East is on this side and it's just the road that goes east. So I thought Est Road sounds nice, and if we have Est, we need a word for West too, so Vast. It's the Vast Road. And I used, after like deciding on that, I used those terms I think several times for naming on the map, because I thought it creates a certain sense of consistency and lore, you know. I mean, let's see, we have a little village here called Estfelden. Do we have anything else here? The Arc Road, of course, leads from Arda also to the tower. It turns, it sort of goes into the long roundabout here in Fulgrath, which then leads to Lumina Arca, which is also connected to the Tower of 5 via the Vast Road. So I think there's another one near Aquarius. See, the Vasting River. So this one goes to the west. And the Northing Stream. Yeah, just keep the names simple for the most part. Just think about ways people would call stuff. It's usually not that imaginative. And that's, I think, a good rule for naming places and roads and rivers. To get imaginative and creative sometimes, but a lot of times make it really simple, like Willowwood, which sounds fine, I think, but it's not very impressive. It's what do I know? It's not something like the Quastra Ventrilla would or whatever. Because why would people call it that? That's a weird name to call it. What's the history behind that? I would want to know that in that case. So here we also have the Est Ran, another river, and Est Kohan. Kohan, I think, was something like satellite village, because these are satellite villages of Aquaris. And Estaron. Yes, now we have more Est stuff. So, I didn't get any replies on whether to do world map or theme building first. Yeah, too bad. I'm gonna go into a little bit of theme building then. Let me just blow my nose real quick, I'm sorry. Yes. Do tell me if you want me to put on some music again, because I never turned that back on earlier. So, of course, I do have the theme of my main world, but we are not going to work with this. We will need a world without theme, and for this I could create a new world, of course. But I already have from when I started out on World Anvil the very few parts of the campaign setting for a D&D campaign I used to master. It's sort of died down a little because everyone is busy with work and stuff. Very unfortunate. Which is also why I haven't worked on it much since then. So, here, that's where I switched worlds. Used to be slightly different before, and I haven't switched worlds in a long time. So this setting is called Darker Planes, and when I open it up, there shouldn't be any theme going on. This is sort of the book cover I created for this campaign setting. Actually, let me just show you that cover, because I think it's really nice in print, and I actually printed that out. I can show you a bunch of my D&D stuff that I created back in the day. So let's take these and add another little thingy you might enjoy. There's the box. Okay, so I really enjoy creating material and designing it for D&D. So I've done quite a lot of that in the past for campaigns I've played in or mastered. This, for example, is the book for my favorite character, Isa Knight, which is actually named after a character in my book. It was also called Isa, but not Knight. There's like, let's see, character sheets, spell stuff and whatnot. She's a, what is it, sorcerer, sword sage from the Tome of Battle. And this is the one I wanted to show you, the Darker Planes campaign setting, with lots of cool material, custom feats and what have you. I'm not sure if it's completely in English. I think it is, yes. So if any of you are interested in this campaign setting, you can just write me up. I will send you the PDF. That's very nice. There's a lot of material in there about the setting and how it works. This one is a little sub-setting part I created more of an information booklet. Really, it's called Silberschiff, which means silver ship. And it's basically information on a spelljammer I had my players fly in one of my campaigns, and they were actually schematics for the ship and contents and what have you. Someone just wrote me up or pinged me, just making sure that it didn't cut off or anything. No, just a world building ping. So that's that. Oh, and this is actually the first campaign setting from the same campaign as Darker Plains, which started out as 2 bells of a parish song. A lot of the material in here, at least the role-playing parts, is written in German, because it's a German group and not everyone there is as good at speaking English, which is a shame because now it's difficult to use this stuff in an English setting. There's cool stuff like this map of a dwarven city I created called Winterclum in the Icewind Dale, which was famous or is famous for its adamantite mines. And one of the favorite things I created for that setting are these booster packs, because I gave out role-playing points for people that like played their characters really well and did a lot of good role-playing contributions to the sessions. I would give out points which they could use to like they could spend them to get natural 20s in certain situations. They could spend them to get extra feats or skill points if they had enough of them. They needed quite a few for that. Or they could use them to buy these booster packs, of which actually I designed quite a few different ones. There's 2 editions of these booster packs. The first one is from the first campaign section, and it's called the Kleckspire Labyrinth. And the second one, Silberschiff again, Silver Ship. And if I take one of these boosters and rip it open, yes, oh, that's that good booster unpacking feeling. There's actually hand-designed cards in here that you could use during the session for certain benefits, like Inspired by Legends Least. Expend this card before making a skill check. You get a +2 bonus on the selected skill check. Or Agent of Change. Expend this card to gain 10d10 exploding dice of experience points. It is, of course, very little experience, at least at the level they had. But getting experience is always a nice thing for players. And what is nicer than having exploding dice? For you who don't know how exploding dice work, it's quite simple. If you roll a 6-sided die and you roll a 6, you get to roll a second 6-sided die. And if you roll another 6, you get to roll another one. This feels a lot like winning more and more, but because of how probabilities work, you are not actually going to get a lot out of the exploding mechanic. It just, feels great. What else do we have? Unyielding Heartbeat. Now this is, I think, a rare card, and it's quite coveted because it basically, so as you can see, some of these cards are blue and some are red. So I had 2 mechanics. I had role-playing points for great role-playing, and I had karma points for tempting fate. And karma points were usually tied into making a karma roll against your karma pool. So the more points you had, the worse your luck would get. And if you succeeded on your roll, you would get a benefit. And these are karma cards. And this one says that you gain 2 karma points, so your checks become more difficult. But if you succeed, And you can use this card if you would drop to -10 or less hit points. And if you use this card and succeed on your karma check, the Unyielding Heartbeat, you are instead reduced to -9 hit points and stabilized. So this is basically a get out of death free card, which for me as a GM is actually a good thing to give the players. First of all, it will feel like a major expenditure to use it because they gain karma points. And on the other hand, I don't have to do a lot of shenanigans to keep their characters alive, if that is something I want. Because the players I was playing with, they were very attached to their characters and they did play them very well, and it just would have been a shame for those to die. So this is the card I created and put into booster packs for that. And this, the Regained Favor, just removes 1 karma point. So managing those karma and roleplay point pools was a fun little mechanic I had in my games. But enough of that. Let's go into some theme creating. So as you can see, there is there's no theme applied here. This is just the standard World Anvil theme. I love that picture and that character. She is like a unique creature. But I will not get tempted into telling you about this setting right now, because I would never stop talking. So just a few pages, characters and races and stuff. And I did a lot of cosmology articles first. So I sort of started building this wiki from the top down. But again, I haven't done a lot of writing in here ever since I started, because sadly that campaign hasn't been going on since. Anyways, if I go into my worlds overview, I can click on this little sidebar here on the little gear called configuration. Now this is the first important step to knowing how to work with themes. You scroll all the way down to display. So by now you can actually select several themes that have been made available for World Anvil. I hope mine will become one too once I've finished it. I'm going to select the Zen theme just to show you how it can work. Now if I reload the Darker Planes campaign setting, everything will be different because, well, the Fire Nation attacked. Yes, damn Fire Nation with their Chinese-esque culture that is now invading my theme. Anyway, so I'll reset this to blank, save changes, and this here is the part that is interesting to us, the cascading style sheets, or CSS, and we can put our custom style in here if we are members of the guild, so patrons for World Anvil. But again, I will try to make this theme available by pleading with Dimitris. Anyways, I am not going to just start writing in there. I am going to open my notebook, or to be more precise, my Notepad++. Use this text editor. It is a great text editor. I'm gonna blow again. All right. So we have text editor. Twitch, Twitter, whatever. Ah yes, here is my current World Anvil CSS, and I am actually going to keep this file very close by where we work, because this way I can just steal from myself, which I have been told is not actually legally considered stealing, which I just love. It's excellent. Anyways, so we want to stay nice and organized. That's a typo. I'm going to just copy this for now, because I am likely to use some of those subtle patterns mentioned in this general, like this comment. This is a comment, so it doesn't actually do anything in the code. You have to use these to put something in commentary mode. If you don't, it will be thought of as code, and your code will not work properly. So keep that in mind. If you have a good editor, it will in some way show that this is a comment. In this case it's green, some also display it as gray, like I think PSPad. So then we have to import our fonts, which I will get from Google Fonts. But I'm not just going to blankly copy all of these. I want a... Does it really have to be a fantasy theme, or can it also be sci-fi compatible? I was thinking about maybe having like a forest in the background, but with a very impressive starry sky. So that might work for a sci-fi setting, you know, like a forest planet. Of course, it wouldn't be optimal for like cyberpunk settings, but if you want to encompass everything, it's going to be difficult. So let's go to Google Fonts and see what we can find. I forgot that Google Fonts is like really slow loading for no apparent reason. So I'm gonna do some more writing up. I'll just copy the sections, body, container, and top level overrides. No, I don't think I have any top level overrides anymore. Page, nav strip. This does nothing because the nav strip is no longer an editable part. But I edited the era header. Yeah, okay, that's fair. I'll leave that in the description for now. Then we have our top level text rules for text and hyperlinks. And then we have our headings, H, H1, H2, H3, and so on. We want that in a nice organized package. Then the sidebar. Ah, yes, of course. So the thing on the side of the articles, which I think I had a little border on the left, some rounded edges. Yes. Special elements. We are going to need this. And I created quite a few weird CSS hacks here, like image previews with certain sizes and hopping stuff. You know, now that I think about it, I should probably actually show you some of the really wacky stuff I have been able to create using the World Anvil CSS, because that way you will know why it is so interesting to make these things available to you. So let's see. We'll go to Aqualon, and I think it's enough if we search for the theme page. Yes. No. Yes. Aqualon theme page. So as you can see, I've done quite a few things with this template. One of the more interesting things is that I made some really nice smooth CSS only animations for certain menu elements. Like if I go here, see this will just come out and go back in. I still love doing that. I think it's absolutely mesmerizing. If I enter the whole article page part with the mouse, these two elements will go up so they're not in the way of the text while I'm reading stuff. But if I go here, they will go down, because if you're not logged in, there's an actual link here and I don't want to cover that up. So if I'm in here and I go on this, it shows me my nice Go to World page logo, and it will follow the page. And the search bar also grows big and has this little background image with the desk of a learned man. Anyways, on the theme page you have a few styles that we're going to get into. So this is a table style. As you can see, it has this nice gradient effect that is alternating. And I'm going to go into how to make these alternating effects. And this table contains images but has a style hack. And style hack means that it does something differently from just creating a table and putting images in. I had to put special tags around this table for this style to apply. And I think the tags I put around is small. So this is actually a table inside a small tag. And it applies a very specific animation effect when I hover over an image inside this table, which looks like this. And I did that for my card game article, which actually won the, I think, February Masters Monthly Challenge. And doing that, I really delved far deeper into the way CSS works than ever before, and discovered quite a few interesting things. This is a unordered list. I insert a little green hat at the beginning of my bullet points, and make an extra thick border here to the left. And I have changed the way links look by making not yet linked articles red and italic, which is more in line with, I think, the Wikipedia view people are used to. And actual links don't have a changed color, but a text shadow, an orange one, which I think is just a bit nicer with the overall theme color. And as you can see, I have a number of font hacks here. You can actually have different fonts in my theme, and all you have to do is, in this case, put your text into a set number of italic tags, and it will de-italize, I guess, the text, and then apply a custom font. And I'll show you how to do that also. So by now the Google Fonts have loaded, and we are going to look for something. Oh, maybe we can just find something foresty. No, but that's a cute smiley though. Also, I misspelled forest. Ah, there we go. Now this is very interesting. Actually, I am very... Oh no, but this is not in the open source catalog. That's a real shame, because I would have loved to have these. I could have used those for bulletin points. Okay, let's see if I can get a green maybe. Aha. I kind of like green TM. It's got a sort of natchy vibe, I think. Is this an external font? Yes. So I take it I can't. Yeah, there are no actual matches in the catalog. They write that way too tiny. Let's check out the featured fonts a little bit. Interesting. But far too little. No. Fine, we'll just do some browsing. Kind of like this one, but maybe it's a little too sketchy. This one I do like, Indie Flower. Let's add this one. Then this is kind of neat. I like the grungy feel of this font. Add it to the pool for now. Also like the Sharpie-esque feeling of this one. No, this just feels, well, for want of a better word, I'm going to say British. And this is very elegant, I'd say. So we have 5 families. I think that is quite enough for now. So once you've selected your families on Google Fonts, open up this little box and on embed select import. And now let's see. No, I see, it's just one line. Oh, that's very neat. So let's start with our font imports. Now, it's important to note that any code containing single or double quotes in your theme will be deleted by Dimitri's script, so make sure you don't use that. You can just type the URL of images and fonts and whatnot which are inside this URL tag without any quotation. It works, so there's no problem there. So now we have our font, and we have to put before every bit of before every style rule we use, we have to put with this user CSS. Oh, also I should close this one. User CSS, because this is the class we are allowed to edit in World Anvil. This one and user CSS extended. So going back up to the main styles, user CSS and user CSS extended page. No, I think this should also be page. So this is basically the article main page. I want to I think I want to have this page monocolor, and I want it to be greenish. So I'm going to use a color picker. You can find those online, but because I just have Photoshop open, I'm going to use Photoshop. Gonna go into my hexadecimal color picker. God, everything's really slow right now. What is up with that? I'm curious. What's happening? Why is After Effects taking up this much power? I'm not rendering anything. Okay, something's weird. Can't save the project because rendering is paused, of course. Ah, dang it. Doesn't matter. So I'll select a nice green shade. Maybe something light, so black text will look good on it. I don't want it to be like a super strong green. Well, thinking about it, a dark green might work, because I'm going to also make it see-through. So here are the values you want. RGB, red, green, blue. So these are 13, 111, and 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write RGB and A. And this is very important because the A stands for alpha. And the alpha channel basically tells how transparent the color is supposed to be. And you can also change the transparency of the element you're addressing by using the opacity rule. But if you use opacity, it will make everything transparent, including the text on top, and you don't want that. So it's better to have just the background image, just the background color, be a little bit transparent, do what you have to, but try to keep the text opacity at 100% if you can. So RGBA, we had, I think, 13, 111, and 0, and then we are going to make it, let's start with 55% opaque. So 1 is 100%, and you can guess the rest. And of course we need to actually assign this to a rule, so I'm going to say background color. Could also just write background, but what the hell, nothing prevents us from being more specific. So let's just see if our background color applies to the element we want it to apply to. I'm going to my darker planes world settings and pasting all of this. All of the commented code is completely harmless. It will do absolutely nothing, so we can just paste everything. The only thing that is going to happen is it's going to import the Google fonts, which aren't used for anything yet, and then it's going to apply this rule, this background color rule, to the page in the user CSS parent and the user CSS extended parent. So let's check out Ash, which is the name of this character. Nothing's happening. But the question is why. So, if you want to see this page extended background color, let's check the console. First of all, I want to see if my CSS is actually included. So here it should be, or maybe not. That's very weird. So this one should be it. Yes. So we have user CSS page, user CSS extended page, background color. Shouldn't be a problem at all. Alright, so let's check the element itself. Container page, there it is. Ah, yes, okay, I see it now. Page is not actually a child of user CSS. So that would mean that this is also not a child of user CSS extended. So all we have to do is remove the page class, and it should be sufficient to just address user CSS and user CSS extended to change the background of the article. So let's try this again. it just did something but then changed again. Now why is that? I think it's because there is this thing on top, which is probably a background pattern, and I only changed the background color, and the pattern is projected on top of that. So I'm going to change this from background color to background. See if that is enough to get things going. As you can see, programming or anything like programming is usually a lot of trial and error, because things tend to not go the way you want them to. So now we have our thing, and an interesting thing has happened, which is the pattern still is there, and it's underneath our partially see-through color. Now the question is, do we want that? That is the question. Or for that matter, is the pattern the larger background, or is it the same pattern again underneath? Well, for one, I think I like the color, but you guys can always comment if you don't like it quite as much and want a different one. We are of course going to need the background image now. So I am going to go to Pixelate and look for a forest picture. I don't know, this is pretty amazing. But let's take it slow. I also really like this one. I think I can actually work with that one. So, yeah, alright. This is also amazing. A lot of cool pictures here, but not all ideal for what I want to go for. So I'm going to, I'm going to take this one. Gonna view it in maximum size. How broad should we actually make this? That's a good question. Let's create a new project. So when I make headers, I use a size of width of 1600 pixels. That usually works pretty well, but the page itself, well, let's just go with the full 180p setting. I think it's 1920 to 1080. So let's just create a few layers here and then drag our image into a new layer. Alright, see you later. So I'm going to have to transform that a little bit because it's way too huge. Let's try 50%. That looks nice. I want a uniform like forest bit on the bottom because I want to be able to drag that into a sort of uniform color. Or actually I'm going to fade it out and let it go into a pattern which I'm going to insert underneath. But first things first, I want this sky not to be a part of the landscape. Or at least I want it in a different layer because I want stars on top. That way there's a better chance that the theme will be usable for science fiction settings, I think. Of course, it always depends on the setting itself. So I select the sky, gonna create a new layer cut. I can take it out. And I'm going to look for a space pic. Let's try stars. Oh no, this is pretty cool, but doesn't quite work, does it? Aurora is of course pretty neat. Let's keep going a little bit longer. I really like these zodiac pics. So maybe that actually also works as a sort of sky. Trying doesn't hurt, so I'm just going to try it out real quick. Let's put this in here and put it underneath this one. I'm going to make that one invisible for a bit. So this is pretty huge. Let's transform that a little. Make it maybe 60%. I kind of want the frame to be outside the picture, so 70 doesn't work, 80 might work. So also 80. Yeah. All right. So, of course, this looks like crap, but don't worry too much about that. We are going to solve that in a bit. So I think this calls for more actual starry sky on top. I think I really like this one with the aurora. Plus this can work from a composition point of view. So I'm also going to drag this one in on top of the zodiac picture. Actually, these stars are a bit stretched, so I'm also going to edit this down to 60. That looks a lot better. So have it like this. So now this also still looks a bit weird because of the sun's reflection here. Just looks like there are two different pictures, but let's see if we can fix that. First of all, I want the zodiac to show, so let's see if we can do something with blending. That might work. There, we're getting there. Screen, of course. I think I'm going to go with the lighter color for now. But it's probably better to put the zodiac on top of the aurora because we want to decrease the opacity there. There we go. School screen, lower opacity. And now we're going to get back our clouds. And let's see if we can layer these on top to create a really weird starscape, because that's kind of the vibe I want to go for. like that. Tricky. Okay, let's put the clouds underneath here. Let's curve the zodiac for a second. There. I think this is much more in line with what I was thinking about. Let's make the zodiac even less. Yeah, I think we're getting there. And then we're just going to have to do something about the foresty part on the bottom, so that it better fits in. But there are ways we can do that. First, I'm going to duplicate it so I have a backup, and then well, I could always try blending. It's probably not going to work, but let's just see, because the picture below is made for the right lighting there. This does work better than I thought. Not quite, of course, but oh, now this is interesting. It kind of looks like those forests are on top of ice fields. All right. Don't want it too dark though. It's like this. It's kind of like an Arctic forest, you know. But just for good measure, I'm going to create another duplicate, make it normal, then do some adjustments. Let's go with brightness first, lower that a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to go into the channel mixer to change the colors a little. So we don't really want all of that red in there. As you can see, if I dial the red down, it suddenly fits really well into the lighting we've already created. So I'm actually just going to stick with that. This is what I wanted to do in the beginning, but you never know what you might get if you play a little with the filters. With the blending, I mean. So we are almost there. This is the home stretch. So what I'm going to do is I will merge my layers, because I will now apply a layer mask. And this is because I want to have a repeating pattern underneath. I apply a gradient to the mask. This did not work as I wanted it to work, because for some reason this gradient is just black. We want black to transparent. Gradient, apply there. So this fades away. Maybe we want a somewhat subtler fading. That might work. Now, of course, it just shows the white background. I'm a bit curious as to how it will look in the final version, so I'm going to go to subtle patterns and try to find a main pattern for our purposes. And I'm probably going to greenify that pattern also, so we keep up our green concept, sort of. Oh, so if you're doing any web designing or general designing work and you need patterns, check out subtle patterns, because the name is quite aptly chosen. These patterns aren't strenuous to the eye, which just makes them great for design work. Now we could of course use that starry sky. That would be a possibility. I don't want to go too dark. I do like that topography pattern. I've used it, as you may have seen, in some versions on my own world page. But I think it's not the optimum choice here. I really like this symphony pattern, but I think it's a bit too elaborate for our purposes. These feathers, on the other hand, that might be worth exploring. Okay, let's see. Download patterns. As you can see, I've already quite a collection of patterns. I'm a bit curious about the tree bark pattern, but let's oops, I opened After Effects by accident. Let's try the feathers first. Now everything is getting slow again. I saved this project for some. Just going to stop the rendering. Yeah, I get it. Save. Close. There. Now that just frees up a lot of processing power for me. So now we got a pattern here, but actually I'm going to get the pattern separately, because what I can do now is I can go to Edit and Define Pattern, and now I have a pattern I can actually use with Photoshop tools. I can use the paint bucket, and as a pattern I can select the new feathers pattern, which I'll fill in now. As you can see, this there's a nice gradient of this going into the feathers, but those still don't look very nice color-wise, so I'm going to go into the channel mixer again. And now you can see I can put that into practice again. Let's see. I want it to be greenish. Oh, of course, I still want the pattern to be visible. There we go. Alright. I think this is pretty neat. Let's just try one more thing. Because I just saw something called tree bark. I kind of want to take a look at that pattern. That's kind of nice. Let's try this too. And actually, I'm going to increase the contrast on this first. There, that way I can work with it better. Define pattern, tree bark. And we're going to select tree bark. It's also not too shabby. Let's adjust this a little bit. Less red, more green. I think that sort of works. Well, perhaps if I blend the feathers in. Nah. So the question is, tree or feathers? I gotta say, I think the feathers are less, how do you call it, obnoxious, I guess. But first of all, we have to get these feathers to look like those feathers so we can overlay pattern and background properly with each other. So first we're going to make this editable. Go to the channel mixer, down the red a little and up the green. There we go. I think that was the one we had in mind. Define pattern again. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's a bit greener. But is that a bad thing? I think this green actually fits better into the forest. But it is a bit bright for my taste, so maybe the trick is to just turn on the brightness a little. So, third time's the charm, I hope. Did this actually change? No, it didn't. But why? Thought I just defined the pattern. There it is. Maybe I accidentally defined a brush. There, now this is much nicer, I think. So what we're going to do is save as. Create WA theme foresty, and I am back to the American keyboard layout for some reason. Let's call this just BG for background and save it as a JPEG. Because Actually, no. We want this to be transparent, so it perfectly aligns with the pattern. So we're going to have to save it as a PNG. Alright, and we definitely need this pattern. So I'm going to say that as a PNG also. Call it up to this green. Save. So how do we get these pictures into our World Anvil theme? That is moderately simple. You just go to images and upload them. Don't, if you can avoid it, don't use external images on your World Anvil theme. It's just not good coding practice. It's much better if you get as many resources as possible locally. So I think he's uploading. Yeah, these are some of the images I used on the setting. So once it's uploaded, you right click and you copy image location. And you go to your theme, and what you do is you type in URL and into the parentheses, pick this, but don't use this address because it can change if the name of the domain changes or something. But the relative path, this is likely to stay the same. So what you can do is replace this with. So you may be wondering why I'm doing all of this. Every time I do this, it tries to go up one folder in the hierarchy. And if you have like a long link, like it's W, the world name, article, everything behind the slash, you will want to go back as far as possible. So this is appended to the base URL. You're probably only going to need these, but once you are down at the base URL, additional ones just don't do anything. So this should work out the best. So just to like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of those, just to be safe. So this is for the background, and the background element is presentation interface. We actually asked Demetrius when the CSS code was implemented if it's alright to edit the background, and he said yes, but in principle every rule you assign should have this or this in front of it, with the dot actually in front of it. Otherwise it is not like legal code on World Anvil, and there is a chance your ability to create themes may be taken away. This is to ensure you only target elements that are supposed to be eligible for targeting. So we have the background image, but actually I want to already add a few additional rules. First of all, this doesn't do anything unless I write background. I'm going to write background. Let's do it like this. So, which one was on top, the first or the second one? That's the question. So I'm going to write no repeat top left. I think that works. And then I'm going to get the pattern that I want underneath. Back to images, browse, and our feather pattern. Good, here's the feather pattern. I'm going to copy the image location again and go back here, URL, paste the new address, replace this bit here, and then repeat X, repeat Y should work. Yeah, I'm not sure if all this is correct code, because I'm really poor at doing this completely from memory, but I'm too lazy to look it up now. It's more fun to just like try it, and sometimes it works right away. That's kind of a cool thing when it happens. Usually it doesn't, but what the heck, this is a very small detour. So then the first thing I notice is that nothing happens at all. So let's just check out what I did on the actual previous one, where I had a similar way of doing things. So this and this, background position. Oh yeah, okay. I can just declare them rule by rule. It's much easier. Much more easy, that's what I meant to say. So let's have the first image. Still don't know which one has to come first actually, but oh, actually I can find out. No repeat means the top one, so the order at least was correct. So first you write the image that is going to be on top, at the top of the page, then the pattern that you want to repeat behind it. Set the position for both. Always separate the two images with a comma, and the size I set for the top image is 100% in auto, which means it will stretch to fit 100% of the width of the screen, and the height will adjust accordingly. And underneath the pattern is going to repeat, so this should work now. Let's paste it into our theme area. And there we go. Now we got our little forest thing. I think this is not so bad with the feathers, but of course now the background color does clash a little bit with this. So do we make it darker and have a lighter text color, or do we make it lighter and have a darker text color? So what we can always do is make the color white and lower the transparency, so black text will still look good on it. I'm quite sure I do want that though. Of course, maybe it's just a matter of slightly reducing the opacity of the green we already have. All in all, I do like that color. Let's see how it's like. It's only 20% visible on top of the background. Ah, see, now it looks like it's not quite there, but it's there. It's not so bad. There's actually a box shadow in the native CSS of World Anvil, so this works out pretty alright, I think. Though I'm not quite sure about this yet. Maybe if I turn it up a little bit again, let's say 35. Yeah, I think this is a little bit better. We'll have to do something about the text color though. So the question is, do we make the text black? I think I do want a bit more of a less transparent and creamier green. I think that's going to work out better. So let's just go to our green settings. Let's try this 100 and 96. Develop that opacity to 70%. Well, as I said earlier, a lot of trial and error. So I think that is better, but a bit, quite a bit too opaque. So now it's just bright as fuck. Let's not dial it down to 0 at once. So this is with 50%. I think this actually works pretty well. Now the background green is darker, which I prefer. You can see text very well, though I think I will change the text color. Now it is a bit of a shame you can't see the background all that well. And I think we can sort of dial the opacity here down a little bit, just to make it show. So what is the name, or what is the class of this element? It is user CSS, and it has the ID cover. So this is one of our top level overrides, by the way. User CSS, and ID is with the number sign, cover. Now we can set the opacity just with the rule opacity, and we'll take, let's start with 65%. Well, this is kind of nice. The question is just, does this take too much away from our cover image? Because I fear it does. It does kind of take away from that. I do feel like the better way to handle this would be for the user of the template to use a more transparent header. Tricky. All right, I'm going to let go of the opacity for now. The thing I wanted to see whether the background image actually fits well. I did see, I'm quite satisfied with that actually. So now we'll remove this and set our text color to I think we can actually keep it a bit more uniform. It's a really dark green, so 53. see how that looks. Top level text rules. Users SS and user CSS standard. Color is the rule for text color. Gonna go with RGBA again, and 0.53, 0, and 1 for the opacity. Copy this, go to style sheet, and now the text is a very dark green, but the color opacity apparently changed back again. What did we have here? Was it 55? This is why you should always pick either changing your code in here or in the editor. I think it was actually 50. There we go. All right. So this as a start for the template. I think it would be a bit taxing to do this for like another hour, so I think I am going to do a different bit now. I kind of want to go into the contest I had planned. So yeah, I'll just do a little shout out on World Anvil after switching back to my main world. Alright, I've made my shout out. I'm just gonna grab some stuff. 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 Yes. Alright. So, I made my announcement on the World Anvil Discord. Let's see if a few more people are willing to join us. Until then, I am going to go to my bits about material for Fate Core gaming in my setting. Let's take a gander at the articles in Aqualon. Or actually the categories, because I put this during the last stream under my tabletop resources category. So if we go to view that, Actually, I wanted to open it up. This is Margaret's favor is the one-shot adventure I designed for my setting, but we want to go to table of resources. So there we are. Now this is really weird that it's doing this. Didn't used to do that. Used to make this full size, but now not anymore. What gives? It's weird. Anyways, I have added to this Fate Core Resources subcategory because I want to focus a little bit on the creation of Fate Core Resources. I see a few people are starting to come in. Excellent. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer with the contest in case a few other people want to join us. And the contest is somewhat related to Fate Core, but you don't have to actually know how the system works or anything. So Aqualon as a setting is the first thing I created, and it sort of uses the Fate Core dials. So I guess if you don't know about how the system works, it's well, the bread and butter of the Fate Core system are so-called aspects. And an aspect is something that anything or anyone can have, and it's an archetypical sentence that describes that thing or that person. And it could be something like, I am the toughest private eye of Seattle, or I am a bionic man from a forgotten age. Whatever you want to write, it should in some way describe the essence of what you are. And likewise, scenes in which you are playing can have aspects like it is very dark, or one that I really liked from a Fate Core game they did on tabletop is glitter everywhere. Oh, that was a pretty funny aspect. And in the system you can sort of invoke these aspects to make your character perform better than the dice maybe allow. And of course as cornerstones to build your story around. So I don't think we're going to become any more people. I guess I'll also do some word spreading in the Discord channels. But for now, about the contest. This contest is going to be a character writing contest. You don't have to create a Fate Core character sheet for your character, though I do recommend looking in the system as a whole because it's a great tool for doing that, even for stories or things like TV shows where it has actually been used. And I would like for you to create a character in my setting. And you can write me your character link in the Aqualon channel or as a DM to my Discord tag, which is, let me check, because I always forget the number. There it is, or not. Can I take myself? Ah, there. No, I can't. What the hell? Ah, it's because of the streaming mode that I couldn't. Alright, so here is my Discord tag. And I will look into the campaign system of World Anvil. Ideally, I would like for you to be able to submit your character articles onto into my tabletop resources category, but we'll check that out. We'll look into that possibility. And what is this character for? I would like to start a text-based role-playing game in my setting using the Aqualon Discord server, where I already created corresponding channels. And for that I'm going to need a few players. So actually several of you have a chance at winning the spot, which is usually reserved for my Adventurers Guild Patreon contributors. But for this contest I am making an exception. So if you have a well-written character, you have a chance of starring in a regular text-based role-playing game, which uses the Fate core system. But we'll look into how much of the actual system we're going to use. And as an added bonus, if there are enough competitors, I'm going to send you a little something. For now what I have are 2 Vocaloid albums I've created in the past. These are actually CDs, they're just in DVD boxes. This is Mainframe Revolution and Dark Bright Elation. Both are, we have 53 minutes, and I think this one is like 40 minutes of music that I've composed over the years. And if you want, I'll send you a copy of those. Maybe also some exclusive Aqualon stuff, like links to the newer Gates of Aqualon magazines. But yeah, after announcing this, I wanted to do just a tiny bit more of writing on the Fate Core resources. So what I kind of want to write on that I already started is the skills. So in Fate Core you have a very simplified skill system. There's only like, actually you can count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 skills usually. I added another one, so it's 19. And they just very broadly define what you can do and how well you can do it. So for non-standard skills in my setting, I had creativity and tech, which both used to be sort of the crafts skill of the Fate Core system, which I removed in favor of these. What have I written so far? Skill can be used by mages to perform magic and put spins on environmental aspects. So, to better work out how to do this, I'm going to open up the Fate Core rulebook and take a gander at the skill pages, see what's written there, and how I can adapt that for my setting. So, skills and stunts, defining skills. There, default skill list. So, let's check crafts, the one we sort of replaced. So, skills in Fate Core have 4 possible uses, which are overcome, create an advantage, attack, and defend. And not all skills can use all of these possible actions. To overcome, you basically try to roll over a static difficulty, usually. It's about overcoming obstacles, which can occur in a wide variety. You can also create an advantage. That means you spend time on changing or utilizing your environment or the people around you to well, make certain actions easier. And this can lead to the creation of new aspects in the scene, which you can then later utilize for bonuses on your skill checks. And attack and defend is relatively self-explanatory, so they do exactly what they say. So we're going to have to write a little passage on how the creativity skill can be used in these certain ways. So we start with overcome, then we got create an advantage, and then attack and defend. So let's make this bold for formatting. Make sure that stuff afterwards is in a new line. Oops. Now, how's the phrasing for our overcome action on crafts? It allows you to build, break, or fix machinery, presuming you have the time and tools you need. This is all very flavor intensive, for example. There's the failure is interesting. You should just succeed and move on. Yeah, this is an important point in the Fate Core system. If you are doing something and it's not really interesting whether you fail or succeed on a throw, like if it's the kind of thing where you would do multiple checks in D&D, or where you would opt to take 10 or take 20, in Fate Core you just sort of do it and move on, because there's just no narrative value in getting stuck on the sort of thing like trying to fix a broken door. So you'll always try to look for the narrative angle in the things you do. So what can we overcome with a creative skill? Creativity skill. I'm going to write a creativity skill. I think I have to capitalize creativity. Do I? Yes. Creativity skill enables you to. What does it enable you to do? To perceive. That's not. This is more for creating an advantage. Enables you to utilize your soul power for magical effects, usually in the form example, using wind magic to blow away noxious gases, or using fire magic to stay off the cold. You can also perceive new possibilities. Potentially spins. think of a good example for this. I'm thinking of something, but it's a really weird example. I don't really want to use that. I'm going to get back to this later. So, well, creativity used to perform magic. Attacking magic is usually resolved through fight and shoot. Creativity can be used to defend against attacks made with magic. There, this should be the basis for our new creativity skill. Let's see if the formatting is right. Yep. And I'll do more of this outside the stream. Now, kind of wanted to do a bit more on the world map, but I think I'm going to call it quits for today, because in 45 minutes the World Anvil stream is going to start, and I'd like to take a little break before that, and I'm sure you do too. I thank everybody for listening and watching, and I am going to put a little announcement up for the contest on the World Anvil Discord server and on the Aqualon Discord server. And well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for being here. It was a great pleasure. And see you next week on Saturday, same time. Bye!